You don't just start by going beyond. No, you get rooted first. You open up to your roots. Dharma isn't Indian. It is universal. Therefore, it will find a form according to the local culture. So, my name is Kai, and I am part of a Buddhist order, and I came to Dublin in 1990, and I set up the Dublin Meditation Centre, which is still going, and I handed over to my students in 2000, and they are making an excellent job of running it. I've tended more towards an aspect of the Tantra called Dzogchen. Sitting, being is one way of describing it. And why Buddhism? Well, my father died when I was 13, and I found myself looking at all the world religions. Well, not specifically, but I started looking at all the world religions. So I read the Bhagavad Gita and the Tao Te Ching and the Quran and the Mahabharata, all the basic holy books. But it was when I read the Dhammapada of Buddhism, my understanding at the time was that was the Buddhist holy book, because that's what a Buddhist swears on in court, not knowing that the Pali Canon runs to 3 shelves in a library. Anyway, so the Dhammapada, the well-known one, I read the Dhammapada, and the first 5 verses I realised I'm a Buddhist. Two other people I'd met had the same experience. They read the first 5 verses of the Dhammapada. So it's something about that length. These verses are 2 or 3 lines a verse, and they too realised they were a Buddhist. Instead of Buddhism imposing itself upon a culture, the culture imposes itself upon Buddhism, so that's why it looks different in different countries. In fact, when the British were doing their world tour colonising, for 200 years, when they came across it in different countries like Cambodia or China, they thought it was a different religion, or India, they thought it was a different religion. And of course we all recognise now it's just Buddhism in different shapes and forms according to culture, because basically folk healthily fancy their own culture and keeping their own culture, thank you very much, and the Buddhism fits in with that, because Buddhism, or the Dharma as we call it, the Dharma isn't Indian, it is universal. Therefore it will find a form according to the local culture. And roots, being rooted to the earth you're on, that is heart connection. That is how we really connect with the possibility of going beyond. You don't just start by going beyond. No, you get rooted first. You open up to your roots. There's a real helpfulness in translating verses into your local Celtic language, because that is the land coming through us. Chonig Bodhisattva Natasha Agus Eignach Navgadovin. It's being on the basis of your roots, your Celto basic roots, allowing the land to speak to you, you to speak to the land, experiencing a non-separation between self and land. That's the beginning of non-separation between self and other, and moving towards the divine. So therefore it doesn't just stay with basic Druidism, which is great stuff. No, it's let's get into that, open up to that, have that unity with others, then from there open up to the divine, because there's a way it's done. It was discovered by an Indian bloke, 2000, the 6th century BC apparently, but I'm not even sure. Right? But you don't have to be Indian to get there. He's made it kind of plain how you move towards, how you move forward in that direction. But as I say, it doesn't come from starting in mid-air. Let's be here now with this, with what we have and are. And it's being with that more and more fully, and more and more fully, and more fully. You realise that what you need to have is already present. There is already in you an ability to listen and to be with exactly what is going on, with what is taking place right now. People don't give themselves enough time to experience themselves, so they're on the phone or they're going to this, they're going from one distraction to another rather than just simply being. And they're afraid of getting an experience of themselves because that experience of themselves might not be that great. The voice might start up, the critical voice, and so what we're doing is completely addressing that. So as you can see, I hope it's not sounding very Indian here. I hope this is sounding, well, I know it will be sounding familiar and comprehensible. And yes, after university I got on the first plane to India, and oh, what an eye-opener that was. And I was very keen to be the full-time living as an Indian type Buddhist, and I went to visit a number of gurus, famous people, Lama Yeshe, etc. And Dalai Lama, met him in Dharamsala, and he blessed my mala. That's the rosary beads, you know, for counting out mantras. It's not a big deal, he just touched it and said a few words, that was it. He's a very busy man. Nice to meet him, nice fellow, nice energy of him. And travelled around India, did the usual tourist spots, and but also was travelling to this guru or that renowned guru, and well, that was lovely. But what it made me realise was that, in actual fact, I'm not an Indian Buddhist. I'm a kind of more of a Western Buddhist, and I'd already made contact with the Western Buddhist order, so I realised what I wanted to do was go back and get more fully involved with that, and that is what I did. Yes, it was cultural. It was the way that their teacher worship is quite wholesale. It's like a complete guru worship. They openly worship the guru, and the guru openly expects that. So that's obviously part of the culture. But as Alexander the Great found out when he tried to lay that on his guys, the Westerners aren't like that. Westerners don't like. So they've got a more relative and provisional appreciation of the teacher. And that sounds healthy to me. That seems far healthier to me. Also, when you're too long in the sun, it gets to be a bit samey, and I got to have a yearning. I felt called back to those grey skies, and those low grey skies, and a little bit of rain from time to time. There's something that John Berman said that resonated for me. It's he was surprised that the desert religions, and of course in this case he was referring to Christianity, but it could mean Buddhism too. He was surprised that the desert religions took root here at all because of the dryness and the desert. Those shrines don't work for us. But for me, our shrines would be more wet, green, more vulvic. It could be maybe a cleft in rocks, the way trees are. You know, a tree, a clearing in the woods. You know how you walk into a clearing in the woods and it just feels like already a special place? Well, is that me bringing something to it, or is it something that's got? Doesn't matter. Yeah, it's the two together, because these are our kinds of places, our kinds of shrines, and of course, folk from overseas, they've got their places and their shrines, and that's just great. But when you overcome this tendency, this maybe it's a youthful exuberance which takes form in a quest for the forward and looking for the forward, and once that matures out, you realise now what we have here, there's something in the air, there's something in the soil, there's something that is of itself spiritual. That's not a very helpful word, it doesn't say much, but in some ways it says something. There's something resonant, there's something that enables you to move towards a savouring. And a savouring is something you can do within your own culture, whereas with, say, something from further afield, it's less easy to savour. It's more that you appreciate it, you're looking in on it, rather than sitting in it. So I'm not just sitting in on earth, I'm sitting in earth, breathing, accepting in her bounty and returning her bounty. And that's where we've all come from. We've come from the earth. We're going to be returning to the earth. And this is also doable in the city. The city, although we're surrounded by plenty of glass and plenty of metal, that glass came out of the earth. This metal comes out of the earth too. There is no impediment to us connecting up with the sacred sites of any city. There's sacred sites in Dublin. Some of them are paved over. Doesn't make any difference. There's one that's paved over in the arcade in front of, or the concourse in front of the Lighthouse Cinema, and gathering there with candles and a body of people to mark the solstices or the equinoxes. This is the stuff that really matters. We have a response to the new moon and the full moon. We should mark that. The times of the year have resonances for us. And that's why the whole thing is coming far more alive again. It was already happening before lockdown, but good old lockdown, one of the contributions it's made is far more people have got into their Celtic roots. And of course the work of Mankan has really helped as well. It's lovely that more people are getting into the language and realising that this is the ground we're standing on. Buddhism could not succeed in taking root in Europe without people first of all getting into their original say Celto-pagan tradition. I know that for some people pagan's a bad word, but I suppose it's not a bad word if you are one. But all it means is original pre-Christian civilization. Yes, I'm very keen on the whole Bridgetine side of things. And Bridget, I mean, for me, Bridget is Green Tara. Green Tara is the Buddhist goddess of the quintessence of compassion, and Prajnaparamita, she's the goddess of wisdom. And for me, that's what I see in Bridget. You know, Bridget, to me, she's also the Christian saint as well as being the Celtic goddess, and she seems to embody those characteristics. I've got both on my shrine. My shrine at home, I have multi-representations of Bridget, Paramita, Green Tara, and I imagine too that that's perhaps what the Virgin Mary is a resonance of as well. I think it's important to go to the sacred sites because there is an energy coming off the earth at those spots. I can feel it in the palms of my hands, and I mention that because I know other folk can too, so it's not just me, it's a widespread thing. It just, there's this stuff coming off the earth. But yes, visiting the sites, the appropriate site at the equinox or the solstice, yeah, or the different equinoxes too. And I've also found it doesn't matter if you go to the wrong one. You know, you thought it was the winter equinox, the Easter, etc. Etc. No, just go ahead. Sacred site will do you, because sure that there are ones that are specific to a particular rising and falling, but the sites themselves are part of quite literally a matrix. Without being metaphorical here, I'm just using matrix in the basic mathematical. I hope I'm using it accurately in terms of the mathematical sense. I mean, straight lines, straight lines crisscrossing Ireland that line up. Yes, I see a continued deepening of the Dharma in Ireland for that reason. The Buddha taught the Dharma, but I see the Dharma in so many other world religions. I see loads of it in the other world religions. It's what our heart connects with. That's what we respond to. Yes, so in that time I did spend 7 years as a Buddhist monk, and that was lovely. That was really I'm glad I did that. It was a really worthwhile thing to do, and I would recommend it to anyone. Probably don't need to do 7 years. I mean, maybe a year would be enough. Maybe a year, 3 years. It's a really lovely, worthwhile experience. So by way of closing, I'd just like to say a thank you to Hannah for asking me so many useful questions, and it's been lovely to talk to you all out there, and maybe I'll see you along at some stuff, or maybe I won't, but I do hope that you found some of the things I've said useful. Bye for now.